Hello, my name is Bianca Noir. I am a multidisciplinary artist, and I currently live in Virginia. When I was in college, I lived in San Francisco, California, and I was starting to run out of options as far as how to make money. I was studying dance and theater, and I had always done theater and dance. I saw people out street performing, and I thought, what could I do? What kind of act could I do as a street performer? And I had actually heard that the late Robin Williams had started off as a street performer in San Francisco at Fisherman's Wharf. So, not knowing too much about the streets, I went out to the streets of San Francisco with various costuming and characters. And to be perfectly honest, I just felt like nothing was enough. I wasn't gathering a crowd. I didn't really know what I was doing. I was experimenting. I was losing money. I was creating characters and I wasn't making enough money. Well, something started to happen though, and the more solidly I felt about myself and the more focused I got, sometimes I would start to draw a crowd and I would start to make money. It got to a point where I started creating certain characters that were making sense. Then I finally decided to be a doll. I decided to create a porcelain doll because I felt like my features were sort of doll-like and I'm kind of animated. And I'd been studying hip hop, ballet, modern. I was starting to get really comfortable as a dancer. But I wasn't so comfortable that I would just start, dancing on the street to make money. So I wanted to create a stationary doll character that looked like a porcelain doll that essentially was an inanimate object that did not move. So part of what I would do is I would become very, very still, and I started to use some of my meditation techniques to stare off into the distance and make my body very, very still, but yet very, very relaxed. And so I would relax my eyes, and I would just get very, very relaxed as I possibly could, considering all the chaos and the dangers of the streets surrounding me. Okay, I was getting very, very dehydrated. I was starving. I was not doing well. I couldn't find work. And now I had this doll character, and it was more of a Victorian era doll. Some people had a problem with the theatrical costuming that I chose, and some people saw it as more of a cartoon character rather than it being a unique character that I had created. So sometimes they would say Raggedy Ann, sometimes they would say Snow White, but actually it was an entirely unique and original character created by me. I didn't make the costuming, I had purchased the costuming online, and the choices that I made for the costuming, I eventually realized I had made a very bad decision choosing the color costuming that I had, but I did eventually create the illusion of porcelain skin and the illusion of being an inanimate object. That came with a lot of problems. Problems for me as a human being. I was essentially an inanimate object to my audience. They viewed me as a doll. They no longer viewed me as a human being. It had become dysfunctional and toxic, but I was starting to make hundreds of dollars per day on the weekends. Through the week, I couldn't make any money, and I needed more than $300 or $400. So what I realized is It was making some money, but it wasn't enough to support me. So I was on a downward spiral, and eventually people just stopped tipping me. And I think it's because some greasy agent that I didn't trust had dropped off a card and had expected me to contact him. I don't know what it was, but one day people just stopped tipping, and it really wasn't something that I had done. In fact, I had grown so much within this character just based on the fact that I had to continue doing it in order to survive and to buy a meal at some point in the day. I had been dancing full-time all day long in school classes prior to this. And I had developed myself as a hip-hop dancer. I was doing street dance and animation, and the doll was coming to life. People had become so obsessed with this doll character, and I was no longer making any money, and people didn't understand. And I finally had to escape because I was in poor health and I was starving, and people were just too obsessed with it.